Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. The last video that I made was all about the Game of Thrones, or who's the best character in Game of Thrones, which you should go give it a watch because I poured a lot of heart and soul in that video, and it would mean a lot to me if you guys could support my channel, like and subscribe, and do all of those YouTube things. So yes, go on. Go, I'll be waiting. And as of me recording this video, the House of Dragon is coming near, boys. So right now, I'm excited and I want to talk more about the Game of Thrones world. So right now in this video, we're going to be talking about the rankings of the houses in Game of Thrones. So sit down, have some drink, have some popcorn, and enjoy the show. So I'm going to be doing two rankings in this video. One is going to be my unbiased opinion and the other one is going to be my, well, biased opinion. Shocking. But you know what? You get the best of both worlds. So let's do this. So I'm gonna be ranking every, and I mean every houses in Game of Thrones. So this is going to be a bit of a nightmare for me. So I would really love and appreciate for you guys to leave a like, subscribe, comment down below if you think what I'm about to say is the same thing that you have in your mind. So yeah, please do help this channel grow. Money-wise, most of the houses in the West would fill out your top 10 easily, with some of the rich houses like the Tyrells, High Towers, and the Red Wine. Resource-wise would be the inverse of the above. Military-wise is a bit more difficult to map out in my opinion, because Western houses have the best equipped armies. The Vale has possibly the best cavalry. The North possibly has the toughest soldiers at base level. Dorne has an army okay with poisoning and cheating their way to power.
You want a good girl, but you need a bad pussy.
Prestige is mostly for the houses that are really old and have long history. These usually mean the great houses, but a combination of all of this would look like, as the beginning of Game of Thrones, in my number 1, I have the Baratheons in number 1. They have a king and they occupy 2 kingdoms as their own with the sub-houses in the narrow seas. They also have an alliance with 3 of the 7 great houses. In number 2, I have the Lannisters. Secretly, the Lannisters have an heir to the throne. The crown owes them millions in gold, and they have the most powerful man in Westeros as their patriarch. And they also have the best swordsman as well with Jaime Lannister. And Cersei as a queen can field an army of 50,000 strong men with nearly 10,000 horses. And the House Lannister is over 2,000 years old, and they're the former kings of the Rock. And in my number 3, I have the House Stark, because beginning of the show, the head of the house, Ned Stark, becomes the hand of the king to Robert Baratheon. He also has an alliance with 3 of the 7 great houses. He also has loyal vassals. The Lord and the King are best friends.
Bessie, thank the gods for Bessie and her tits.
And they have 3 potential male heirs and 2 females. The house is over 8,000 years old and they're the former kings of Winterfell. And in number 4, I have the Irons. The former head of the house was a father figure to King Baratheon and Ned Stark of Winterfell. They may have the best cavalry in Westeros, and their home is nearly impossible to invade on land. They have an alliance with 3 of the 7 great houses like the other 2, and they were former kings of the Mountain and the Vale, and they're over what, 2,000 years old? So yeah, I have them in number 4. And in number 5, this is surprising, but I have the Tullys. The daughters are ladies of Winterfell, and the Eyrie Fertile Lands have an alliance with 3 of the 7 great houses. The vassal houses that they have are strong than the great houses and are not very loyal. And they were never former kings, and they are a very young great house ranging to 298 years. And in number 6, I have the Tyrells. Now look, you can make the argument that they're number 1.
Not particularly.
But there's a reason why I'm putting them in number 6 in this kind of ranking, is because they can command by far the largest armies and have the most resourceful, but vassal houses are not loyal and far more powerful than their great houses. They have no political power due to the supporting of the Targaryens, and they were never former kings and are very young great house in general, and ranging to 283 years. And in number 7, I have the Martells. The Martells can amass arguably the smallest armies and have no political interest due to the support for the Targaryens, and they hate Robert, so shocking.
An inspiring sight for the people.
They were former kings and do have their vassals' loyalty, but the loyalty slowly diminishes because Dorian is a pussy. Sorry, I meant an overly cautious pussy. But I'll say this though in defense. The way the show treated Dorne was probably one of the biggest missed and nerfed parts of Game of Thrones, and I'm someone who tends to forgive an adaptation that doesn't adapt to everything that the original source made. But when you exclude a whole set of plots and characters that would have added to the show, like the Aryan storyline was completely removed, and the Dornish master plan, which gave Dorne so much characterization and character depth, like when he had this huge master plan to support the Targaryens that he sent his oldest son Quentyn to meet Dany and take over the Seven Kingdoms. So when you have that much important content left out in the show that I think could have been important and essential to the show, that's a really big missed opportunity on the writer's part. So I'm gonna put the Martells in number 7. And in my last ranking, in number 8, I have the Greyjoys. It's not surprising why many people would put them in the lowest of the ranks. They lost 2 of their heirs to the kingdom in a dumbass war, their third is a hostage, and they are expected not to reave nor rape, which is like 90% of their fucked economy. And they have the littlest of political power and 0 bargaining power. So in the grand scheme of things, they're kind of irrelevant.
Not really relevant then, is it?
Now look, I do love the dynamic between Theon and Yara, except for one part. But it's not enough to put them on top of the rankings as the best houses in Game of Thrones. But then again, this is the ranking at the beginning of the show of Game of Thrones. The next ranking is gonna be by the end of A Dance with the Dragons. Since that's the last book I've read in A Song of Ice and Fire, since George hasn't put out The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. So George, I'm kind of waiting right now.
But I helped him with the...
I can't believe it.
But by the end of A Dance with Dragons, in my number 1, I have the Irons. They were being manipulated by Littlefinger, but at least they were untouched by the wars and they are most prepared for the winter. And in number 2, I have the Martells. Their heirs are kind of idiots and their head of the house is a pussy, but 2 of their bastards are in King's Landing right now planning to kill Cersei. That's not what happened in the show. And their army was also untouched by the war. Number 3 is a bit of a difficult one, so I'm gonna have 3A and 3B. So in 3A, I have the Greyjoys, surprisingly. Because on the one hand, they weren't so badly set back with the war, but on the other, they are being led by a world-ending magical man. They currently have a large fleet and are attacking the Tyrellus Reach. And in 3B, I have the Targaryens. Guess who's back in the game? Young Griff, who in my mind is at most a Blackfire, at worst is a fake, is here with the Golden Company fucking up the defenseless Stormlands, and Dany is a legit queen. She ain't a good one.
Do we have a plan?
I will crucify the masters. I will set their fleets afire, kill every last one of their soldiers, and return their cities to the dirt. That is my plan.
But she also has 3 nuclear weapons and is a prime candidate to fulfill Cersei's prophecy of a finer queen coming along to end her reign. And they're probably gonna fight each other though, but that did not happen, I guess. That's not how Cersei dies. So they get 3B. And in number 4, I have the Starks. At first glance, it seems as if they're fucked, which they kinda are, but not entirely. The Starks are battles away from either being lords again or being in the exact same place again. They've only lost one of their 5 potential heirs, and their vassals are still extremely loyal. The most powerful house in the region, the Manderleys, hate the Boltons and the Freys and plan on establishing one of their heirs as the Lord of Winterfell. Another faction is trying to set Jon Snow as king, hence the neck, and Sansa is free of the Lannisters and she's with the Vale, and it's said that the North can muster an army of 30,000. Lord Clegane Stark did, and Robb left with 19.5 thousand, meaning even after the war, they can still get an army around of like 10,000, so things are gonna be pretty good with them. Though I wish this isn't how the show ended with Bran being the new king, which literally doesn't make any sense. I just get the feeling and vibes that Bran is just so disconnected to the world, to the point that he barely did jack shit during the Battle of Winterfell. Look, I get why he became the king, I just think he's not gonna be a good one. His mindset, in my opinion, is just fucking weird.
I'm going to go now.
Go where?
Because he's all-knowing and he knows the history, like the entire history of Westeros. So he's not going to fight faith, instead he's just going to accept the faith. Like, Bran would have been a really good master of whisperers. I mean, his entire gig is that he knows everything. So, I can never understand these goobers. But moving on, in number 5, I have the Tyrells, and they're about to be in for a bad time.
You can smell the shit from 5 miles away.
Since they put themselves in beds with the Lannisters, who are fucked, so that means they are too. Their third son and their only daughter has been arrested and are being held at trial, and their father and head of house is with them. That leaves their disabled clever son, Ed Sir Garland Tyrell, to muster their forces to try to stop the Cthulhu in human form. So their house is about to burn for their greed, which that's exactly what happens to them, so that's not really surprising.
You have been stripped of your dignity and authority, publicly shamed, and confined to the Red Keep. What's left to work with? That's good.
So in number 6, we have the Baratheons. They are also fucked. Their entire family line is legit down to 2 people and a host of unrecognized bastards. One of which is going to fight the Winter War, and the other is a little girl in the hands of a sacrificing crazy witch. And the only recognized bastard is out in the Stepstones with everyone wanting to kill him. Their ancestral home is currently under the control of young Griff and are about to do battle with a sociopath and a psycho. And in number 7, I have the Tullys. They are so fucked to the point that they're kind of irrelevant and out of the game. They have lost their homes and all that remains of their future line is Edmure and a Frey baby. I mean, could you imagine the atrocity of it all? To be born part Frey? No, it's pretty GG for them. But the last house in this ranking, in number 8, is the Lannisters. Man oh man. No matter how bad it is for other families, the loss of homes, the decimation of armies, all of it, at least the Lannisters can smile and say that we have a future, we have heirs that can fix this, they are always a marriage away from being back in the game. But the Lannisters' main line have no future. Zero, and I mean none. The only clever people they had left in the game are either dead like Kevan and Tywin Lannister, or exiled like Tyrion Lannister. The 2 that are left don't even like each other anymore, and the one left in King's Landing is a woman out of her mind, and with a prophecy that says her children will all die. Joffrey, in a rare instance of sheer joy for watching a bad guy get his retribution, died. Marcella had her face fucked up by Darkstar and is also primed to die, with several sand snakes crawling about to itching to get one for their papa. Tommen is a puppet king with the mother in prison and a Lannister army decimated by Robb Stark. Their future is fucked. And yes, they have cousins, but that's not the main line though, and nor do they have the authority they once had with Tywin alive, since Bitch Queen is already their queen. And the closest living heir after the children of Cersei are Lancel, lol, and some part Frey, so yeah, they're the bottom of the worst after A Dance with Dragons. So far, those rankings are for both the beginning of Game of Thrones and by the end of A Dance with Dragons. The next ranking is going to be my personal ranking, and I'm getting the vibes that many people are gonna hate this ranking, but again, this is my own personal ranking, and if you want to show me your own ranking, leave them down in the comments down below.
Very good then. That's settled. Good day.
It's bad and bullshit. Bad. Cooking up dope with a Uzi. My niggas are savage, ruthless.
So let's get on with it. So there are hundreds of houses with great history, plenty of which had kingdoms of their own. I'll be looking at houses that are still surviving to this day and ranking the 10 best. And the criteria of my personal rankings are dependent on their history, current strength, and the odds of surviving until the end of the show. You guys ready? Alright, let's do this. In number 10, I have House Reed. The Reed family is a privy to all kinds of knowledge surrounding controversial events. Howland Reed is the only person alive to witness the events of the Tower of Joy. Mera Reed is another member to be traumatized by the Starks, losing her brother while keeping Brendan Stark alive. Residing in Greywater's Watch, House Reed is quite out of the way, rarely being troubled by the denizens of Westeros. Honorable to a fault, the only reason they didn't join the fight against the Army of the Dead appears to be so that they could all die together as a family. However, the Army of the Dead has been defeated. Well, sadly. It's possible House Reed can make an appearance again, so they're my number 10. In number 9, I have House Tully. House Tully has never had a member be named king of something, but they still deserve a place on this list. Their heritage dates way back to the Age of Heroes, making them one of the oldest houses in Westeros. Their castle was Riverrun, and Riverrun is known to be an invulnerable fortress that can repel any land invasion. Due to their location in the Riverlands, House Tully are valuable allies to anyone who wishes to gain notoriety in the area. While they've currently been stripped of all lands and titles, House Stark rules the north and House Frey are now extinct. Riverrun is under Lannister control. It's not known which house owns it, but it's very possible that the Tullys could end up back in their ancestral home. As of the last season, the last remaining Tully of importance is the dim-witted Edmure. God help them. And in number 8, I have House Glover. Having decided to stay neutral during the hostilities between the House Stark and House Bolton,
I'm Lord Bolton's eldest son.
But you're a bastard. A trueborn will always have the stronger claim.
I've been naturalized by a royal decree from
Tommen Baratheon? Another bastard.
I don't fuck with you.
this house is still intact, currently occupying Deepwood Motte. They selected not to send aid to Winterfell for the fight against the dead, although these wars have been done and gone. House Glover remains strong. It's up to the North to decide what to do with them, to be honest. I mean, we might see them being stripped of their lands for breaking the oath, or maybe they'll be forgiven. I hope it's addressed at some point. Even a single line of irrelevant dialogue will be enough, right? D&D.
Do you know why
D&D
this is so dangerous?
Because he has thousands of spies in his employ. Because he knows everything we do before we do it.
Because he doesn't have a cock.
Neither do you.
Number 7, I have House Clegane. Easily the most confusing, broken yet powerful house in Game of Thrones. House Clegane came into existence when a kennel master saved Tywin Lannister's father, Tytos Lannister, from a lioness. They're a vessel of House Lannister. They don't have much land to their name, but they have two of the greatest fighters ever seen. I mean, Sir Gregor Clegane is currently an undead creature. I mean, we're not really sure what it is, to be honest. But he was nearly unkillable. Now he could probably take on the 5 best swordsmen in Westeros on his own. Sandor Clegane, however, has had a redemption arc to say the least. No longer does he fight for gold or even loyalty. Instead, he does what he thinks is right. And plus, he's probably had one of the best, funniest lines in Game of Thrones.
You don't seem to understand the situation.
I understand that if any more words come pouring out your cunt mouth, I'm gonna have to eat every fucking chicken in this room.
Get out the way! Get out the way!
In number 6, I have House Baratheon. While they were extinct for the past season or so, House Baratheon had to make this list, mostly due to the impact the Baratheons had on the continent. The founder of this great house was Orys Baratheon, a bastard half-brother to Aegon the Conqueror. Yep, this means the Baratheons we see in the show are of a Targaryen descent. And Orys also took the great castle of Storm's End from the Storm King and pretty much took over everything else, including their motto and sigil. The Baratheons would serve as a loyal and powerful house to the crown, until Robert's rebellion, of course. Robert Baratheon crushed the entire Targaryen dynasty and took the Iron Throne for himself. We all know what happened after that.
King Robert Baratheon, murdered by a pig.
And of course, we have his bastard son, Gendry Rivers. And Gendry Rivers is known as Gendry Baratheon right now, Lord of Storm's End. But first, he has to retake the castle. No, not that castle. The other castle. There you go. In number 5, we have House Greyjoy. Hailing from the lands of the Iron Islands, House Greyjoy epitomizes the meaning of Ironborn. The Greyjoys can trace their ancestry back to the Grey King, a legendary Ironborn king surrounded by tales and legends. While the Greyjoys are in a fair amount of a disarray as of the current series, there might be stretches back thousands of years as if they ruled the Iron Islands from Pike. In number 4 is House Iron.
I have only loved one woman. Only one. My entire life. Your sister.
Bitch, get out the way! Get out the way, bitch!
Despite House Iron being one of the newer houses of Westeros, they still have a rich history and a powerful reputation across Westeros. Originally of a pure Andal line, they've intermarried with the bloodlines of the First Men but are still considered to be the closest related house to the Andals. The land in which they reside is a natural fortification.
Eerie. They say it's impregnable. Give me 10 good men and some climbing spikes. I'll impregnate the bitch. Mr. Perfect, perfect, he's Mr. Perfect.
It's genuinely impossible for any army to take the Vale of Iron. It took many generations to erect the great structure of the Eyrie, which is deemed impregnable by any who knows its name. In recent years, House Iron has taken a massive downturn as the only pitiful Robin Iron remains to continue the family name. Knights of the Vale are still among the best soldiers in the entire of Westeros though, so I'm sure House Iron will still be ongoing strong in 100 years or so. In number 3, I have House Lannister.
The king is tired. See him to his chambers.
I'm not tired.
Yeah, I learned the game from William Wesley. You can never check me. Back to back for the niggas.
The Lannisters are one of the most recognizable factions in TV history. They owe a debt of gratitude to Lan the Clever, who helped form this house. Before the Andals invaded, the head of House Lannister served as King of the Rock and was one of the richest nobles in Westeros. For many centuries, House Lannister would pull the strings of Westeros by controlling the gold supply. Their lands are rich with wealth, allowing them to build up great riches, lands, and respect. Then Aegon the Conqueror would appear, forcing the Lannisters to submit to the Targaryen rules. There they became the Lord Paramounts of the Westerlands. Their greatest achievements since that day came after Robert's rebellion, as King Robert Baratheon owed vast amounts of gold to Tywin Lannister. This led Tywin being the true power of Westeros for so many years. Now though, since Tyrion is the hand of the king to Bran the Broken, let's just hope he doesn't dig his own grave.
Who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
In number 2, I have House Targaryen.
Dracarys.
Originating from the great kingdom of Valyria, House Targaryen is by far the best house to ever grace Westeros. The Targaryen dynasty is unparalleled in terms of magnitude. No other house will ever rule as largely for as long as the Targaryens did. Their first castle was Dragonstone, erected after Aenar Targaryen was told by his daughter to flee to Essos. There they resided with their dragons until the doom of Valyria. The city of Volantis attempted to take control of Essos, but they were swiftly ended by the young Aegon Targaryen. Shortly after Volantis was kept in check, Aegon turned his sight to Westeros. He and his two sisters/wives conquered Westeros with the use of dragons, kicking off the start of the Targaryen dynasty. Countless wars, tales, and stories would be born during the rule of the Targaryens. In general though, the dynasty was actually quite peaceful and prosperous compared to the centuries beforehand. Then the Mad King had to go and spoil everything, until Jaime Lannister had to save the day only to be deemed as the Oathbreaker and the Kingslayer. Only then for Cersei Lannister to destroy the Great Sept of Baelor, Mad King style. And you can see Jaime Lannister's face being like, Cersei, this is why I killed the fucking Mad King. There was hope for a united Westeros as Daenerys and Jon Snow fell in love, which was fucking hard to watch. Like, Jon, you do realize you're fucking your own auntie. Did you never had the thought to ask Daenerys how old she was?
The only thing he wanted was what I'd given him the night before. I was good. I was very, very good.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Welp, I guess not. But my top one in my own personal ranking is House Stark. The most northern house on the list is also one of the oldest and greatest, founded by Bran the Builder during the Age of Heroes. House Stark would go on to be a massive influence in Westeros. They would rule as kings of winter from their mighty castle Winterfell. There they managed to maintain control of the north for thousands of years, however difficult it was. No southern invaders has ever even gotten a sniff to rule over the north, save for Aegon the Conqueror Emperor though, King Torrhen Stark bent the knee to Aegon to spare his people the fate of Dragonfire. Since that day, the Starks of Winterfell have ruled as Wardens of the North. After King Robert Baratheon's death, circumstances drastically changed for House Stark as they were subjected to tragedy after tragedy, though some members managed to pull through, with 3 Starks currently residing at Winterfell. With the news of Jon being a Targaryen, Sansa Stark seems to be the head house of Stark right now. Located far in the north during winter, there's no way any other house could even think about invading. I mean, as of right now, the Starks are just all over the place. With Jon Snow returning to the Night's Watch, Bran the Broken being the king of King's Landing, Sansa Stark being the head of the House Stark, Arya going to west of Westeros, wherever that takes her. So they're just all over the place right now. Hopefully the new Jon Snow series would explain at least some of those parts, but I don't know, we'll see. And I certainly hope that we get an explanation of how Bran became the king, because I do get the knee-jerk reaction of him being the king. I mean, like I said a while ago, his entire shit is that he knows everything. Even with that said, people still think it was pretty dumb. And yes, I kind of agree, it was kind of dumb, because what this shows is that D&D knew that they had to make Bran the king, but had no idea how to make it happen. And while the power of stories is indeed the biggest theme in Bran's story arc, it's definitely not enough in my opinion. There's need to be more. There's need to be an actual in-universe reason for Bran to be the king of King's Landing, or the king of 7 kingdoms.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg.
And this dude barely did jack shit during the Battle of Winterfell. Like, what were you warging into, boy? What were you doing? So yeah, those are my rankings. I hope I don't get any hate from you guys. This is just my personal ranking. But I would personally love to know your personal rankings. Leave them down in the comments down below. Like this, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Stay safe, guys, and goodbye.